Hey everyone, Rick Sammon here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me for my class here on KelbyOne, the AI mindset. When you're through changing, you're through. And you'll see why the subtitle becomes very important. Now, I've done more than 60 classes here on KelbyOne. And for all these classes, I usually start with the same thing. And it is, I hope you learn a lot and I hope you have a lot of fun. Now, in this class, I really do hope you learn a lot, and I do hope you have a lot of fun. But I'm going to start with something different, and it's lesson one, and it's don't panic. Please don't panic. Sit back, relax, and enjoy, because this is not a class. It's not a class about replacing your photography, Photoshop, and Lightroom. It's a class about expanding your creative vision. So check out this. I took this picture on the left in my home studio. It's a high key shot with very flat lighting. I went into ChatGPT, brought that picture in there. I said, please, and I use the word please all the time because I treat it like a person. I say, please create Rembrandt lighting. And in less than 60 seconds, I had Rembrandt lighting on my picture. Now, I know that you, Scott, Kelby, Eric, and all the Photoshop instructors can do that in Photoshop and Lightroom, but it's going to take more than 60 seconds. So this is like a shortcut. And we're going to talk about shortcuts later on in the class. But before we get going, I want to give a shout out to Joe McNally, one of my favorite instructors here at KelbyOne. He has a great lighting tip. And, with AI, if you understand all these different things like lighting, composition, exposure, it will help you. It will help you with your AI pictures. So he says, if you want an interesting portrait, don't light the subject's entire face. So I was following Joe's tip here. And speaking of following, definitely follow Joe. He has a lot of amazing classes here on KelbyOne. Now, speaking of don't panicking, I know that you've spent years learning how to see the light. You learned about composition and you learned how to tell stories. So, my friends, AI does not replace that. It amplifies that. So Susan and I were down in Delray Beach. We go down there every January to escape the cold. And I took the picture on the left, just after sunset. But using creative visualization, I said, if I had time, to create a really nice nighttime shot, I would set up a tripod, use a long shutter speed and all this other stuff. Well, I brought that picture into ChatGPT and I said, please create a night scene and streaking taillights and turn the lights on in the car. Again, in less than 60 seconds. So envisioning the end result is really, really important. So in reality, my friends, the better photographer you are, the better your AI images will be. And here's an example. I took the picture of this restaurant in Delray Beach. We were going there for dinner. We were going over the causeway. And I really wanted to get there because I was starving. I didn't want to wait till like sunset or after sunset. So I took the shot with my iPhone. I brought it into chat. I said, please create a photorealistic image taken after sunset with that beautiful glow in the sky and turn the lights on in the restaurant. Pretty cool, don't you think? So whether you're creating an image like that or an art image like this is another restaurant in Delray Beach. What I did is I brought it into ChatGPT and I said, I was thinking about Edward Hopper. Edward Hopper was an amazing painter. He created all these beautiful images with people in them. So I brought my picture on the left into ChatGPT and I said, please create an AI art image. And it put people in there because Hopper used people in his pictures. So, I saw the picture in my mind's eye, and this is really the key. Seeing the picture in your mind's eye, this really helps you create that image in AI. So here's the thing. If you give AI to a non-photographer, they'll get something interesting, of course. But here's the magic, my friends. You give AI to a photographer like you, and they'll create something totally cool. Again, because a photographer understands light, understands composition, and understands storytelling. And here's an example of storytelling. By the time this goes live, I'm going to be 76. I think we're going to have 76 loops around the sun. So I was thinking about that. And 51 of those 76 years has been spent with Susan Sammon. So on the left there, have a picture of us having a happy hour in Thailand. Could have taken the man out in the back easily, but I left him in. Anyway, I brought this into ChatGPT and I said, create an image of us in a spaceship looping around the sun. So ChatGPT actually put 76, on on this spaceship. But if you look at the angle of our heads, this goes with those spacesuits. I think Eric Kuhn would really like this picture. By the way, Eric got amazing pictures of the space launch. If you haven't seen them, definitely check those out. But I was talking about, this knowledge we have as photographers, how it applies to AI. I was talking to this about Jack Resnicki, another great KelbyOne instructor and a really good friend of mine. He's really into AI too. And he has an analogy. He says, you can have the best race car on the planet, but you must know how to drive it to win. This is the thing with AI. You have to know all these prompts. You have to know what's going to happen. You have to know, this whole creative process so you can win at making AI images. Throughout this class, I want you to remember this, that you and your photos and your knowledge, that's your secret weapon. That's your superpower. And we all, my friends, we all have superpowers. And if you want to read more about superpowers in all your photography and actually in all your life, check out this post I did for Scott Kelby on his blog, Finding Your Superpower. That's Frank Dorhoff over there on the left, an amazing photographer, a really great guy. Finding Your Superpower and Inner Voice. I think this is really important no matter what we do, because we really all do have superpowers. So this class is also about having a ton of fun with your AI images. And I have to tell you, for the past 3 years, I've had so much fun doing this. So I took this picture on the left in Myakka River State Park of this snowy egret, and it reminded me of a ballerina. It actually reminded me of the ballerina and Swan Lake, even though it's not a swan. It was just so graceful. So I brought that image into Midjourney, another one of the AI programs I use, and I said, create a picture of a ballerina. And look how the arms kind of mimic the wings over there, and the reflection kind of mimics that. So this was just so much fun to create, again, in less than 60 seconds. So you might be thinking by now, okay, Rick's into totally, this, that's where he's going. It's a hobby for me. That's how I look at it. And I think it really could be a good hobby for you. I still love photography, and I will always be a photographer. In January here, the bald eagles come down from the north. We're about an hour north of New York City in Croton-on-Hudson. And January and February, the best times to photograph eagles. I go out and I hunt for eagles with my camera. Driving along the road, I see an eagle in the tree. I pull over, and it took off, and I got like a great shot. And here's another shot. So I still love, especially bird and wildlife photography. I tell people my specialty is not specializing, but I really do like to do it all. And in bird photography, here's a quick tip. It's either wings up or wings down. And if the eye's not in focus, you've missed the shot. So this is a straight shot that I got, and it was so much fun. It's so rewarding to get shots like that. I like going down. This is taken in Delray Beach also, at a place called Wakotahachie Wetlands. And I like the sequence. It's rewarding to do that. I like going out to Death Valley and getting shots like this, capturing amazing landscapes like this with my camera. Very rewarding. Getting back to January, it was so cold here for so long. The Hudson River was frozen. So over there on the left, we have these God rays and all these pieces of ice. And the picture on the right, it might look like AI to you. It's actually a straight shot. Might look like AI because those pieces of ice in the foreground, look like slices of pizza to me. But it's a straight shot. So it's very rewarding for me to go out and keep shooting. And speaking of taking straight shots, I have a class here with Mike Kaplan. This is an amazing class. I learned so much from him. He's a meteorologist out in Chicago. This is coming up, Chasing Light, Not Luck, Using Weather to Your Creative Advantage. So Mike, the meteorologist, what's he interested in? Accuracy. So in this class, you're going to see all straight shots. Well, speaking about, expanding your creative vision, here's a nice enough shot I took on one of my safaris to Africa. Nice backlit shot of an elephant. But the thing is, it was pretty dusty there. So if it wasn't dusty, I probably would have had beautiful rim light around this elephant. So what did I do? I brought it into chat and I added rim light. And then I used Photoshop to expand the canvas. Now, if I'm going to send a picture to National Geographic, it's not going to be the picture you see on the bottom right there, because that's an AI image. So, but if I'm going to use a picture for my wall or use it in an AI class, I think I'm going to prefer that one because it has more contrast in it, and I think it has a lot more detail. But here's something really cool. This is also a class about strengthening your real photography and learning from AI. Now, some of you may have seen this Steichens picture of Greta Garbo. I think it's a beautiful, soft, captivating picture with beautiful lighting. So here's the story behind this and why this is called the AI mindset, the class, because you start thinking in AI. Susan and I were picking out a new sectional, and I don't like shopping. So she's looking at all these sectionals, and I pick up a magazine and I see this picture of Greta Garbo. So I said, hey, how can I create an image like that? You see the picture of Greta Garbo over there on the left, and I took this picture in a studio on the right, one of my favorite models there. Again, a very flat lighting picture, right? You know, it's nice enough, but it doesn't have that soft, moody feeling. And in photography, my friends, mood matters most. So I bring this picture into ChatGPT along with the other one. And in less than 60 seconds, I said, I wanted to create that type of picture. It gave me like 10 steps, and there were just 2 of the 10 steps. It showed me how to adjust the Gaussian blur. It told me how to change the layer blending mode to screen or soft light and reduce the opacity to 20 to 40%. So after I did that, I said, create the image, and it created the image you see over there on the right. Not only does we have that soft, flattering lighting, but the background is the same, and it has the same type of mood. So I have a class here on KelbyOne called Sammonisms. They're quick tips to help you remember stuff. My new Sammonism is this for AI. Inspiration is the spark. Interpretation is the art. It kind of rhymes. But this is so amazing to me. So you saw the picture that I showed in the beginning with the Rembrandt lighting. Well, here's another example, more on how AI can strengthen your real photography. Took the picture on the left, ChatGPT, create Rembrandt lighting. So here, once again, we had like 2 of the 8 steps that showed me step by step how to do this. What a great learning tool this is. It's just an amazing learning tool. And then I was able to do this. I said, create the image. So it's a learning tool. It's fun. And it's really changed the way I think about imaging. Yes, I like to take the straight shots. This is a picture of the stairway in the Colony Hotel, also in Delray Beach. And I think, there's a psychological shift that we need, that it's okay to have fun and to experiment. And as my mother used to say, follow your heart. So I really like this staircase picture, photographed it a few times. I know Scott Kelby likes the spiral staircases. He might like this shot. But it reminded me of M.C. Escher. And M.C. Escher, I was introduced to him by my brother in the 60s. Escher did all these paintings where it looked like the people were going up and down at the same time, and the stairs were going up and down at the same time. And when I saw this picture, I thought of Escher. I brought the picture into chat, and I said, create an MC Escher-like image, which you see on the right there. What's this about? It's about having fun. And I think it's about being creative, because if you don't give the prompts, if you don't think about it, what's going to happen? It's going to be like the race car driver. You're not going to know what to do. So here's the thing. You are already using AI in Photoshop. And here's a list of just some of the things, some of the ways you're using AI: subject selection, select sky, object selection tool, and we could go on and on and on. And here's an example of how I use AI in Photoshop. You may have seen this a couple of, maybe 2 years ago in the iPhone seminar. I love doing the iPhone seminars for KelbyOne. A ton of fun. I learned so much from the other instructors, but this is not the original picture. Here's the original picture. Well, it's a little flat, but worse than that, flat lighting because it was in the shade. We have all these twigs and branches in the way. So with the lasso tool, I used it 5 times. I selected all the branches there with no prompt, and I created this image. So I created this image using the AI features in Photoshop. And back then, nobody was really complaining. But as you'll see later on in this class, some people are definitely against AI. And believe me, I get it. Some people are afraid of the term AI. So I came up with these other possible, perhaps more acceptable terms for AI. Smart editing tools, advanced editing technology, digital enhancement tools, creative assist tools. I have this one in the red because it's my favorite. image optimization technology, automated editing tools, next gen tools. So I really think it's this term AI that is turning a lot of people off. And again, I get it. I understand. It's taken some people to embrace AI. When I got into AI, a lot of my friends were against it. Now more and more of them, seems like by the day, are embracing that. So you're already using AI in your camera. Took this picture again in Florida. We'll call it Hatchie Wetlands. I might have gotten it, but guess without the AI in my camera, but having subject detection, real time tracking, animal and bird detection, scene recognition, and all these other things. All these features help me get it. So we're using AI not only in our cameras, but we're using it on our big machines, on our laptops, and on our cell phones. So I think the biggest threat to photographers really is not AI. It's really about, not being open-minded. Again, here's this picture you see on the left, and I brought it into chat, and I said, create an Audubon-like painting. And if you've seen Audubon paintings, you'll see this looks pretty much like an Audubon painting. This was a lot of fun. So I posted this picture, or a picture like this, showing the real shot and the painting shot on Facebook. And Larry Becker, the host of all of the live conferences, a great photographer and a good friend. I've known him for a long time. He said, you know what? If I saw something like this, I'd put the painting on the wall. So I sent him a print. So when thinking about this, AI, I think about what John Lennon said. Reality leaves a lot to the imagination. It sounds kind of funny, but I think it's really, really true. We have to have imagination. AI is also about changing the way you think and see. Here's a picture of me scuba diving in the Maldives, nice enough, nice clear water. And I saying, okay, what would happen if I put some sharks around there? So I went to ChatGPT and I put these sharks around there. But check how smart AI is. Look at that shark closest to you in the foreground. Look at its top fin. There's a shadow of that fin on the other shark. If you look at my face there, the strobe light from the photographer who took the picture of his friend is coming from that same angle. So it knew where to put the shadows, which I think is kind of cool. So this is not new. This is really not new. This book came out about 10 years ago, Creative Visualization. It's about seeing the end result. So I've been doing this for a long time. Ansel Adams, was big on creative visualization. So this is one of the keys to being a good photographer, visualizing the end result. As many of you know, I am a hippie at heart. I went to Woodstock in 1969. I had a Volkswagen bus, kind of like that. This was in much better condition than the one I had. So anyway, Volkswagen buses are in my mind. So I went into Midjourney and I said, hey, create a picture of a Volkswagen bus in the desert. And it created this image. But I wanted to have more fun because, Ansel Adams said a photo is never really done. Well, I think in AI, an image is never really done. So I said, what would happen if I put some flying Volkswagen buses in the sky? And my friends, I told you I was at Woodstock in 1969. I think I may have seen a scene kind of like this. So then I said, what happens if I animate it? So I went into Grok. I brought my Midjourney image into Grok Imagine, which is another one of the programs I use, and it created this video. So here's a question that I get asked, and a question you may have. So you're creating these AI images. How much of that image is actually your work? Well, I actually asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said if your photo is the foundation, like you see here, it's 50 to 70% of your work. And I think I kind of agree with that. Some people say, oh, you use AI, you're stealing the images. Well, I think it's 50 to 70% of your work in an image like this. But what happens when you create an image like this, the image that you saw at the opening of the class? By the way, I created this in Midjourney with the prompt. I think this is kind of cool. Tiny dancer dancing in the sand, which is a line from the Elton John song. What percentage do you own there? Well, it's all AI. So what I do when I create an image like this, I call it, and it's just me, there's probably other terms, a million other people might call it a million other things. I call it AI art, and that's why you see I have this new AI art logo in the bottom of the frame there. So now I have two logos for my images. I have one for my straight images that you see over there on the left, and I have one that says AI art. Now, years ago, I spent $1,500 asking someone to create a logo for me. Guess who created this for me for free? That's right, ChatGPT. Now, I know AI imaging may not be for everyone, and I get that. Look over there on the left. When HDR came out, there was so many. I think I counted once there were 3,000 posts on why people hate HDR. And now with AI, I see a lot of that over there on the bottom right. You see every reason why I hate AI, and you should too. So, but the thing is, people hated HDR and they grew to like it. And now it's becoming more and more acceptable. So, even if you don't like AI, if you're a professional photographer, you need to know the competition. And AI is a big competition for real photography, and you have to know what's happening. So I published these two pictures on the web, on Facebook, without telling people really why I was publishing them. And I said, which do you like better? And some people like the top picture with the picture with the saddle in sharp focus. And you look at the picture at the bottom right, and the saddle's totally out of focus. So most people thought, because it's very easy to do, that I blurred the background. That's actually the real shot on the bottom right. The picture on the top left, I created in chat. I said, make the saddle in focus and make the bricks a little out of focus. This is kind of cool that you could do that. It's easy to blur the background, but it's very difficult, almost impossible to get a shot like that in Photoshop, making the background that sharp. So here's the thing. So I put it on Facebook, as I said. And so this person on the top said at the bottom, clearly defined environmental reference. He liked the saddle in sharp focus. Someone else liked the top image. It's a great 2/3 view of the face. What do I need the saddle for? So it's all subjective in all your photography, whether it's AI or whether it's straight photography. So once again, see the straight shot on the top left with the blurred background, and I sharpen the background. That we can do this, that we can sharpen the background to the point like this is just totally, totally amazing to me. The subtitle for this class, and it's one of my favorite expressions, is when you're through changing, you're through. And I figure this is from one of my inspirational classes for Kelby about maybe 10 years ago, because we have to keep changing, we have to keep growing. So I figure if it's good enough for a crawling sack of goo, it's good enough for us. We have to change. We really have to keep changing. So this is just not a clever quote. Changing for creatives like you is about survival. It's about creativity. It's really what photography is all about. When digital replaced film, people resisted. When Photoshop arrived, people resisted. Actually, I remember the first talk I gave about Photoshop, someone walked out of the room. I'll never forget that. But now we can't imagine working without them. Another expression that I like is, when you're not moving forward, you begin to move backward. Think about this. Susan and I were recently down in Puerto Rico in Old San Juan. We stayed in a beautiful hotel. I loved it. And I created this image on the right, another Edwin Hopper-like picture from the iPhone picture on the left. But ChatGPT, I took this picture this morning, it's probably more by now, 30 million AI images are created daily worldwide. So I'm not the only one to do this. Another way to put this is take a walk on the wild side. Just take a walk on the wild side and have fun. Here's a little video I created in Midjourney from scratch. Okay, are you ready to jump into the exciting and fun-filled world of AI? Well, I created a little video from this picture that illustrates how much fun you can have. Well, that's the end of lesson 1. Let's move on to lesson 2.